75 doctors in Florida walked out of the hospital. It was symbolic. They did it overlapping end of their segments or whatever, or their shifts and the beginning of their shifts. But it was a symbolic swipe at those who have chosen not to be vaccinated. Now, there's a new study out of Israel today that shows that those who have had COVID but have not been vaccinated, but they've had COVID, either recovered from it, fought it off, whatever, are 13 times stronger against COVID and the Delta variant and other variants of the virus than those who have been vaccinated. Now, that's not to say the vaccine is not worthwhile. It's not to say that it's not effective. It's not to say that it isn't a good tool. It's just to say that there's no reason to make people who've had the virus get the vaccine. It's part of the errancy of our ways with how we've been handling this. But that particular display was specifically pathetic because those same doctors haven't bothered to educate themselves on nutrition and metabolic flexibility, which human beings don't have anymore because of the processed sugary food diet that we eat. You have Krispy Kreme offering 2 donuts if you show your vaccine card. So the donuts are what's going to cause your immune system to be compromised in the first place. Anyway, I brought my friend Paul Seegert on from, he is basically a healthcare expert, right? He's helping put together plans that put the consumer back in charge of their healthcare. But we talked about this specific issue, and apparently Delta Airlines is now going to charge their employees $200 a month for healthcare coverage more if they don't get the vaccine. So I want to bring Paul into the conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Let me start with this, because I want to talk about a couple different things, and eventually we're going to talk about that Delta charging their employees that don't get the vaccine $200 a month. But let me start with this. The 75 doctors that staged a walkout down in Florida, this was largely symbolic. They did it at the end of their shift and at the beginning as well. But this was one of the most cognitive dissonance messages I've ever seen in hypocrisy. First of all, there's a lot of fat doctors, number one. Number two, until doctors start to actually educate themselves on nutrition and the things that we can do to make our immune system stronger. Was it not the most disingenuous thing to ever see, to see them walk out and say, well, if you haven't gotten the vaccine, you haven't done everything in your power to keep from being sick. Therefore, we're going to symbolically walk out on providing you coverage. How bad of an optics was that, given the hypocrisy of that?
Well, when we look at healthcare costs and claims and what's driving the inflationary nature of our system, the vast majority of the costs are associated with lifestyle choices.
Right.
It's all chronic illnesses, things like diabetes, things like, and everything that goes along with that are diet, exercise, other things about, a healthy lifestyle. And in fact, that's true with COVID as well. 80%, somehow we're not supposed to talk about the fact that 80% of the people that get hospitalized and die as a result of COVID are obese.
Right.
And so, I don't know why this one in particular has to be chosen as the time that we're going to start. But if it leads to a conversation about healthier lifestyles overall and how that will benefit us all from a health standpoint, happiness standpoint, and driving down costs in our healthcare system that's out of control, let's do it.
But the problem is that's not what they're doing. There's been zero conversation about health. To your point, about 90% of the healthcare that's provided is absolutely related to personal choices. Type 2 diabetes. Okay, that's completely preventable. And by the way, almost entirely curable by personal choices. Heart disease, entirely preventable. Obesity, entirely preventable. And all of the diseases that sprout off of those preconditions, all preventable with personal choices. Mm-hmm. And yet doctors do not talk about that. And the fact that we've had, and this is the thing I think that drives more people to think along the lines of conspiracy theories, when they see that, which is clearly propaganda. The doctors come out, we're not going to serve you, blah, blah, blah. That's clearly propaganda, right? Centered around one thing, and that's the vaccine, which the pharmaceutical companies are profiting handsomely from and have no liability for. Meanwhile, the thing that we actually do have liability for in our personal lives has not been talked about by any of the experts from the beginning. Whole foods diet, exercise, get sunlight. These things have not been talked about. Do those things, and you will most assuredly be one of the 99.5% of the people who will survive this, and the vast majority of people who are not hospitalized.
Well, and you may even catch it and not even know you caught it.
Right.
That's what happened to our family in our office. I mean, ironically, in our office, everyone got it. And I'm the oldest person in the office. I'm not that old. I'm in my 40s, but I'm the oldest one in the office, and my wife and I actually both work in that office. We were unaffected, didn't even have any symptoms whatsoever. Our children of 5, one of them vomited once, the rest of them took a nap, and we're all fine. And that's very fortunate, and I'm glad, but it's not luck.
Right.
It's not purely, by chance. We don't have any underlying health conditions. Fortunately, we do eat a whole food diet. We exercise. We make it part of our routine. I just got back from a walk, So It's just part of living a healthy, happy life.
Yep.
And then there were younger folks in our office who maybe model their lifestyle a little more after what's common in the way that they eat and how sedentary they are, et cetera. And they were out for a couple of weeks.
Right.
Not hospitalized, but still a tougher experience.
Yeah.
And we aren't talking about that.
I honestly refuse to take a health lecture about a mask or a vaccine from a 300-pound person munching on a bag of Cheetos and Twinkies. Like, I'm sorry, you're not going to tell me what I need to do with my body to be healthy. And again, I'm not anti-vaccine. Look, if you are in the category where you currently are in one of those comorbidities, you need to freaking go out and get that vaccine. You need to do it because you have to do that risk versus reward assessment. And dude, if you're in those categories, I don't want to see you in the hospital. I don't want to see you on a ventilator, and I don't want to see you dead. So go get the damn vaccine. But in the meantime, start getting healthy.
That's the bottom line. For way more, the conversation could be so important and so useful and way bigger than COVID if we would use this massively powerful force, the media, that has been part of misinforming people. If you listen to certain media outlets, you actually believe that if you get COVID, you have a 40 to 50% chance of getting hospitalized, and that death is likely. That is not true. That's like a tenfold increase of reality. But that's what you think. And so they've stoked a ton of fear and motivated a lot of people to do certain things, mask and double mask and triple mask and other behaviors. Let's turn that faucet on for something really useful. Let's start educating people on making some better decisions.
Yeah. All right. I want to talk about Delta Airlines now going to charge their employees. What is it? It's $200. They're going to add to their insurance premium per month if they don't get vaccinated.
They're not going to give them paid time off if they, their sick time is now at risk as well if they get hospitalized and so on.
The thing about this that's so disturbing, again, this has it walks in the same lines as the disingenuousness of the doctors doing the walkout, right? There are and it sets a very dangerous precedent when if my employer now can micromanage whether or not I'm allowed to eat Cheetos. Right? They can now micromanage whether or not I have to get 3 workouts a week, which all of these things are things that we think are good. But when we start mandating those things, for them to say you have to get the vaccine or this, what if that person has, I guess they're allowing for medical exemptions or whatever, or maybe religious exemptions, at least I hope they are. But the precedent that this sets and the fact that like what else are now these companies going to do to come and say, hey, you're costing the company money. How much more money has obesity cost the collective healthcare plan at any given corporation, and we're gonna worry about the vaccine as opposed to all those other things.
It is interesting, and I think it's mostly because of all of the drama, the politics around this that we're having this conversation about the vaccine. That Delta did this. They're the kind of the first to have done it. They don't have a lot of as much union issues to deal with, so they could maybe get this done without having heavy negotiations with unions. A couple of the airlines did a mandate, Hawaiian, and one of the others did a mandate. United, Southwestern, and American are saying we're going to strongly encourage it, but we're not going to go to either of these steps, at least at this point. But it's a very interesting step to take. I've been getting asked for months if this would occur. I predicted it would as soon as Pfizer got the official approval, or one of them did, and sure enough, here we are. But what it continues to ignore is the fact that there are people who have a very legitimate argument to make, and I believe we'll see lawsuits that will come up as a result of this, and we have some already in play. How can you mandate I get a vaccine if I can show I went and got an antibody test or a T-cell test or both, and I'm going to show you that I have immunity that is as strong or stronger than if I were to get the vaccine? Do I really need to get the vaccine, or should we acknowledge the scarcity globally of vaccines and not have me use one because I am protected?
Right.
So there are some lawsuits going on right now that I think they're very interesting to watch. If they should play out in the favor of those employees who are on the side of science in this matter.
Yeah. So and appreciate Paul Seegert jumping on with us.